So I made a little clip at the border, but it was so noisy. It was much busier than I thought. So I'm putting this on later. The border is not very much to see really. There's no big sign saying you're entering the Republic of Ireland or Northern Ireland. A lot of political sensitivities on both sides, and the country is Ireland. So it'd be a bit weird to have a big sign saying you're now entering Ireland when you've been in Ireland. So there are county signs, County Monaghan on the one hand and County Tyrone. But the other thing that's really interesting is that the signage itself changes. And as you go into the Republic, you see bilingual signs in Irish and English. And most importantly, it's kilometres per hour, which is, for me, well, it's a wee bit scary because I'm not used to the speed limits in kilometres. But the great thing about the Honda E is you can change very easily all your instrumentation over to metric. Hello, and here I am in the lovely Edgeworthstown, and this is the first full day of my stay with my good friend Paul. And I came down yesterday from Northern Ireland, and I charged for the first time in the Republic just outside Monaghan, and that was successful. But that was with my ESB card, and that's like the national network. But today I'm doing something rather exciting because I am plugged into an EasyGo machine, and so this is a different network, and just like in Scotland, there are different networks. But I have to say that the EasyGo people, when I got in touch with them, were incredibly helpful and talked me through what I needed to do. And I got a little fob. Here it is, my little EasyGo fob. So I'm on the main street in Edgeworthstown. I think I've parked the wrong way, but hey, I'm a foreigner. And I've plugged in, and it's a rapid charger, so we are going to have a coffee and hit Edgeworthstown and see what's going down in this little town, and when we get back we'll be charged up to about 80%, which is great. So this is my first experience with the EasyGo network, and everything absolutely spot on. Thank you guys. So I'm here in my friend Paul's house, and I'm just taking stock. It's Saturday. I left on Thursday morning, and it's been quite an interesting journey. I drove on Thursday down from Dundee down to the southwest of Scotland to Cairnryan and the port, and across on the ferry, and stayed that night in Larne. So I had to charge twice. I charged in Falkirk and I charged in Ayr, and I think that was quite good going. The Falkirk trip, the Falkirk stop was just to have a coffee, and while I was having the coffee, I charged the car, and then in Ayr I had lunch, and I charged the car, and that got me all the way to the port of Larne. And then on Friday yesterday, I drove up the Antrim coast, so completely the wrong way, or the opposite way from where I was going, because I really wanted to see that coast, and absolutely worth it. Stunning scenery, absolutely stunning. And that's without seeing the Giant's Causeway. I think I must be the first person in 400 million years of the Giant's Causeway to have driven past. But that's because I had one look at the National Trust car park, and I decided that wasn't for me. I wasn't going to have the visitor experience. But to be honest, the rest of the coast was so amazing and so beautiful that it was not a problem not to have seen the Giant's Causeway itself. And that will be something for a later trip when I have more time to walk the coastal path. And from there on to Portrush. which was lovely. And in Portrush, I charged the car while I had lunch. That wasn't quite so successful because it was a slow charger. So the Northern Irish experience was all the chargers were fine, they worked, and the card that I'd got in advance worked. So that was a huge, huge relief because I'm not quite sure what would have happened if I hadn't. They all work, but they're very slow. So the infrastructure a bit slow. And that meant I was a little bit slow getting off from Portrush. And I decided instead of stopping at Monaghan and Cavan as I'd intended, I just pressed on and I got to my friend Paul's by about the back of 6, which was nice time because dinner was being prepared and there was a huge gin and tonic waiting for me, which was very, very welcome. I charged for the first time in the Republic just over the border before Monaghan. That was my first charge in the Republic, and that was extremely successful with a rapid charger. And today we went into Edgeworthstown and we used a different network. We used the EasyGo network. I had a great experience with the guys from EasyGo. Before I came, they explained exactly what I needed to do and they sent me out a little fob, and that worked perfectly this morning, although I ran out of credit. There's the problem. But that was easy to solve, and so we got the car charged up. We're going to have dinner tonight, and then tomorrow I'm off to the hill of Uisneach, which is the spiritual centre of this beautiful island. So there'll be more from me tomorrow.
You're very welcome to the Midlands.
So I'm in the very heart, the spiritual heart of Ireland, the hill of Uisneach. Uisneach? Uisneach. And I'm with Helen, and I wanted to ask her just to say a few words of welcome for the blog in Irish, if you wouldn't mind.
Dígit agus tá fáilte rud go léir go Uisneach. Evelyn is anam dom agus tá an áthas arm a bheith an seo in éanacht leat inniu. A very, very warm welcome to each and every one of you to the Hill of Uisneach, from the Hill of Uisneach, and may you be able to make your own presence here one day when the time is right for you.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful, and it is an extraordinary and beautiful and magical place. And so I'm so thrilled to have been able to come here.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much. So here we are, just away to leave my friend's house, and it's about 8:30 on Monday morning, and it's been a very interesting trip, and I have had a lot of thoughts about the car and how it works. It's been, on the whole, it's been absolutely fantastic. It's certainly turned heads, and a lot of people have stopped to talk and chat to me about it. Everywhere I charge, someone comes up and chats. It's either another EV driver, and the opening line is always, "So how do you find the Honda?" And or it's passers-by. How do you find electric cars? So always a talking point. It's been amazing. I've driven a long way, a lot of kilometres and miles, yeah, I'm just getting prepared to drive home. I'm going to go to Cavan, which I'd planned to stop in on the way down, and then I decided I was a wee bit behind schedule, so I didn't. So I'm going to go to Cavan, and then across the border again, 3 times again, across that border to DHARMA, which is just on the other side of the border, and stop probably for some lunch in Armagh, and charge up for the final leg up to Larne. Then I get the ferry. Then I'm going to stop for a night in Ayr. I don't really want to be driving home in the dark because I'll be tired by then. And then get home tomorrow morning early. So an absolutely amazing trip for me. Learned so much about the car and about how to plan and how to live with an electric car on a long journey. It's all new and it's interesting and it's worked. Look, I'm here and it's happened. You can do it. It needs a different mindset maybe from getting in a petrol car and just driving off, but it can be done, and you don't need a Tesla. You don't need a really high range, provided you're prepared to be a little bit patient and you do your planning with your charge points. Bleary-eyed this morning, to be honest. Very tired yesterday. The road from Cairnryan to Ayr is a bit hellish, to be honest, and I think in future I would always try to get an earlier ferry. To get in the 5 o'clock one, which gets in at 7, meant travelling up that very twisty road in the company of a lot of lorries and a lot of roadworks was not pleasant, and it was wet and dark and just not very easy. So I arrived at I actually arrived at within 100 metres of the hotel and then got lost, which took me almost to Kilmarnock. Well, not quite, but it was a little bit frustrating. So not a great last part of the journey, to be honest, or last part yesterday, because I still have to get from Ayr to home. So this is the final leg. I'm going to go up to Falkirk, probably do a wee top-up charge there, and then on to Dundee. I haven't got such a good impression of Ayr. It was really nice when I was coming down, because it was sunny and quite sort of mild, and there was a storm coming, but it didn't reach me at Ayr. It hit me later. So I had a nice impression of Ayr where I had lunch, and today not such a great impression, to be honest. I went to get a coffee and I'd looked up a place. Basically, I'm virtually on a roundabout here on the edge of the town, so facilities are limited. But there was a little cafe next to the hotel which said it was open at 7. It wasn't, it's open at 8. So what do you do for an hour in rainy Ayr, on a roundabout in rainy Ayr, in the car park of Ballantyne's Health Club? What would the Buddha do? Well, the Buddha would have meditated, and that's what I've done for 20 minutes. So I feel spiritually uplifted, and a far better use, in my view, of Ballantyne's Health Club than running around on a treadmill. Anyway, I'm up to 83%, so I'm away to disconnect soon and go and get this coffee and be on my way for the final leg home. So I'm back in Dundee. The journey's over. Quite uneventful, the last part, except that I took a wrong turn. Because the road was closed and I thought I was cleverer than Google, and I wasn't. And I went up what is a road that goes through Glendevon and Gleneagles. I realised my mistake, and I decided just to go on. It's a very spectacular, beautiful road, so that was a nice way to sort of end. But there was another more important factor regarding this blog, and that was that that road takes you onto the A9, and the A9 is like a motorway. I mean, it is a dual carriageway technically, but it's like a motorway, and it's the main road in that part of it from Perth to Stirling and then on to Glasgow. And then at Perth you take an actual bit of motorway, not very long, but it is technically a motorway, and then you're on to the road to Dundee, which is also a large dual carriageway. And so I tried to avoid those kinds of roads on the way down and for this whole trip, and here I was right at the end going on motorways. But it was interesting because I wanted to see how the range would stand up to that kind of driving, and it did really well, actually. I was surprised. I tried to go at a modest speed. I didn't go too fast on those roads, and the range held up quite well. And I think avoiding the big motorways and the big dual carriageways does mean that you explore the country more and you see more of the country. And I've seen parts of Scotland that I'd never encountered before, even close to places I knew, like Falkirk. And that's been great. But there are times when you realise why they built motorways. And for example, at the outskirts of the Glasgow conurbation, places like East Kilbride, Hamilton and so on, you're basically in the outskirts of a town the whole way, and it's just one roundabout after another, and that does get very tedious. So I think that the lesson is is planning. As I said before, that's the key, is to plan. And it doesn't mean totally avoiding motorways and dual carriageways, but it means maybe blending the two and making the most of the journey to make it as pleasant and interesting as possible and as nice a driving experience as possible. So that's me back in Dundee, but I thought I would give the last word to my good friend Avi Zuckerman, who I stayed with Avi and Paul in Cool in Westmeath. So over to you, Avi. He had never been in an electric car at all ever before, not a pure electric car. So I wanted to see what his reaction was to his first trip in an electric vehicle. So over to you, Avi.
So I'm sitting at the breakfast table at my friend's, and yesterday, I think, Avi, was the first time you'd been in an electric car, is that correct?
Absolutely.
And what did you think?
Oh my God, I fell in love with it. It's incredible. It rides so nicely, quietly. It speeds up from 0 to 50 in no time. It's amazing.
Great.
Beautiful.
So a good experience, you'd say?
Oh, it's the best experience of riding that I had yesterday.
Wow. Well, that's praise indeed for the Honda, yeah.
Absolutely.
And a talking point as well, everywhere we stop.
Oh, amazing. It's fantastic. It's a day in my life I'll never forget.
Thank you very much, Avi.
You're very welcome. And I want to thank also your car for taking me.
Consider it done.